If you thought you knew what this MC Rizzler Will's motivations were for wanting to metaphor his way to the top of the symbol, well, you're probably correct. But nothing can stop a good shonen from rizzing the audience up. This anime has all there is you need, and we can easily cheer for our Megane Will together as he reaches for the frosted hair waifu to metaphorically melt her ice. However, your sensei is a total douchebag and he's trying to NTR you. In this episode, he must defeat this person if he ever wants a chance at clapping the frosted hair waifu's cheeks. Spoiler warning, guys. For this video, we're going to be covering Wistoria, Wand and Sword, Episode 2, Bikutsu no Gotoku. After being recommended this anime from someone I trust, there's no need to research, just watch. And I think this is quite the under-the-radar classic shonen in the making that seems so far very easy to enjoy. The MC starts off bullied into meekness, but a strong waifu makes a strong man. Ain't that right, Sympathy Booty? Episode 2 continues this strong start for this anime, and if it can keep up at this level of quality, this might be an easy one to recommend to people. The episode starts off in a depressing fashion. The promise that a Rizzler Will made to young Elfie starts to go up in flames internally as he realizes at the meek age of 10 that he will have to overcome way more obstacles than he could ever have imagined. Being bullied. This is where Rizzler Will displays many signs of meekness as his magical capabilities is non-existent. This is the start of more context of how Rizzler Will made it inside the regarded Magic Academy when he can't even display any real magical powers. The kids in the background gossip over him, saying things like the school took Meek Will because they can get the frosted waifu, Elfaria, aka Elfie. Imagine being Meek Will, being the sympathy bargaining chip that allows him to go to a school where he gets bullied every day and laughed at because you literally don't have what other people have and can do on a basic level. However, we've already seen in the previous episode that the opposite is true as well. Your boy Rizzler Will is actually Senshi of the Lone Sword. While society hates upon the low-class, magically useless Rizzler Will, he too has a hidden latent ability that only he possesses with a superhuman warrior strength and ability to diagnose fights. Still, his goal is to become a Magia vendor, which is the highest class of a magical hero like Elfie is. So now we are riding the Rizzling wave of Will to see if he really has a chance to defy social norms and become a respected Magia vendor. We have not seen Rizzler Will fight anyone with real magical strength yet, but the anime being called Wistoria, Wand and Sword must have its advantages somewhere. In this episode, we're about to see a good fight go down. It skips to a Meek Will along with Edward Sensei speaking with the Bachan looking lady who is the regarded Magical Academy Headmaster Cauldron, a noob. In a contextual wordless scene, Headmaster Noob places a dagger in Will's possession, or a small sword, and all of a sudden, she starts blasting him with magical circles. Meek Will, still with his head down, defies a Noob's attack, parrying each blast, sending Werkner Sensei to the ground, and Headmaster Noob cuts through the tension with words. Laughs off what she just witnessed. Seeing what she saw and seeing what we saw in the previous episode, we can see why Will is the Rizzler. Getting old Bachan's past their prime to giggle from his unintentional riz. Regarding Maho Gakuin Kocho Kodoron, Anuv speaks with amusement that Werkner Sensei did a good job and that Rizzler Will is allowed to stay at the academy. Werkner Sensei had the reaction that everyone else had, as well as he questions if letting Will stay at the Magic Academy makes sense for him. Anub Kocho finds the contradiction that a boy using a sword wishes to be a man with a wand. That is quite amusing. But the Riz makes too much sense to let this boy walk away. Then Meek Will cries out as he exposes himself for the simp he is. Due to the promise he made to his dear Elfie, he wants to stay at the Magic Academy at all costs as long as he's able to move up the ranks to eventually reach the status of Elfies. Meek Will's cries of frustration and constant bullying should have put this boy into a sea of misery. But it's the frosted waifu that keeps our Rizzling boys' hopes up. A strong waifu makes a strong man. A noob Kocho gives our young hopeful Rizzling Will words of encouragement that he can move up the ranks because his name is literally the most shonen, because where there's a will, there's a way. And that's the only way you'll metaphor your way to the symbol. Werkner Sensei and less Meek Will pardon themselves from the meeting. With the noob Kocho, she speaks out loud, likely referring to Rizzler Will and Werkner Sensei, or some other undisclosed person that he has no guardian. So this falls upon that person. A noob Kocho uses a spell on the sword dagger that she loaned to the Rizzler Will for the brief display of incredible senshi abilities. She once again finds it intriguing that a sword wants to be a wand. I mean, it's pretty obvious that a hot chick makes you take extraordinary actions. And alright guys, you guys know at this point, if you've been watching me, I love hooks to the episode because it gives you a goal of what you're about to watch. The crux of Rizzler Will's main character development is his inability to use magic. But he still insists on being this magia vendor, which consists of people that are special in using magic. When logically thinking about this, he doesn't need that status. He's strong on his own, or he could find other people that might be similar to him. But this episode right away, it pits our logic into, okay, how far can this sword be able to compete with the wand? I mean, you gotta start that off with the story. We have to know. Does our Rizzler Will, does he have a chance? And it's not only because he made this promise to his childhood friend. There has to be other motives to why Rizzler Will wants to reach the status of magia vendor and be recognized with that title. Or he's just a simp. And that's okay, because simping is not totally a terrible thing if it makes you become a better man. This is only the second episode, so there's a ton of context that this story must get through, and all these characters that we barely know about that are clearly going to be an important part of our MC Rizzler's story. In the end, maybe our boy just wants to be with his frosted-haired waifu, and there ain't nothing wrong with that, or is it? At the same time, Will just busting out moves like it was nothing. That in itself, in his abilities, is its own mystery. Like, why is he so physically powerful? Maybe he is some demon descendant. Like we haven't heard of that one before. Overall, my brain is still intrigued to find out all these questions that we have early on in an anime. So yeah, let's continue. Fortunately for our boy Meek Will, he's in Werkner Sensei's class in this scene, who explains that when they mention about ascending the tower, what they mean is the student's ability to move up the ladder to get into the upper institute, which eventually leads the student to becoming a magia vendor, where the frosted waifu dwells. In the upper institute, there's a bureaucracy, which involves gatekeepers that give you recognition or cast you aside. The two ways to get into the Upper Institute involves getting 7,200 credits at the regarded Magical Academy or creating your own magic. Clearly, making up your own magic tricks is the harder option, so you must get those credits to graduate, in which Werkner Sensei yells at his students that all these bums are in incredible danger of not graduating. Will? All the students are quite pissed off, as no students wants their teachers to make them do more work, so Werkner Sensei makes them do supplemental lessons. Colette Loire, aka Sympathy Booty, is just chilling, waiting to give our boy Rizzler Will some more of her sympathy by understanding that Werkner Sensei's supplemental lessons are quite mendokusai. Rizzler Will confirms again from the previous episode that he fails in the actual spellwork test, so it's important for him to max out his credits elsewhere. Imagine going through school, but you pass everything else, but you fail at everything in math. That's Will right now. As the Rizzler and Sympathy Booty walk further down the hallway, less dumbass number 2 bigs up his red-headed homeboy by telling blatant lies to all other classmates that Shion was the one that defeated the 10-credited evil sentinel. Despite the projection of Shion's insecurities, the audience and he knows the real truth. and is boiling from his insides, and that is when he sees Sympathy Booty and Rizzler Will of the Lone Sword casually walking down the hallway. The soulless one gets up to confront the real talented Rizzler in Will and knocks down his books. Will defies all logic in how Shion sees the world and eventually lets Will go. As Sympathy Booty is like, do I need to step in again? The soulless one tries to dig deep into his soul, but just can't find one. So he walks away in frustration as his goons follow him out of the hallway in frustration. As well, Colette asks if Will needs any sympathy, but Will is like, Kiki will explain it. The scene shifts to another soulless one, but he actually has black hair. Edward Sensei is acting like a total bitch and snitching to Calderon Kocho about expelling the Lone Sword. Calderon Kocho is totally like, why are you acting like a little bitch? I've seen Rizzler's Riz firsthand, and he's almost finished graduating, with it being his 6th and final year at the regarded magical academy. Like Shion, Edward Sensei is in the same thought process as a warrior surpassing a mage at a damn magic school makes no damn sense. The old Calderon Kocho isn't just old, it actually has meaning to her character. As one of wisdom, she pulls out some stats to prove our Rizzler Will literally excels at everything else. Magia vendor aside, he can prove himself to become an artificer or a healer. She informs the angry Edward Sensei that it's their entire job to produce amazing scholars for the fated day. Ooh, did we get some hint at some worldly issues? What is this fated day? Is that entity from the previous episode? Is they gonna come back and seek their revenge upon the humans and upon those old ass Magia vendors that look like bad guys too? And it's nice to know that one of the leaders of this magical society sees the upside in Rizzler Will. Even if he realistically can't become a Magia vendor, there are other qualities that pop out. Cause where there's a will, there's a way. Edward Sensei stands to prove Calderon Kocho wrong, that it's the fact that the little Rizzler wants to become a Magia vendor, not a scholar. That is the bigger issue here. In that respect, Calderon Kocho does acknowledge that this could be an issue for someone wanting to be at the very top of something he can't even do basics. So she does something slick and tells Edward Sensei, why don't you give him a test? After the ending of the previous episode, besides Shion being the biggest obstacle to Will becoming a Magia vendor, is Edward Sensei. He is literally trying to gatekeep little Rizzler from becoming something. So if Will can Riz Edward Sensei, aka the Dark Viper Mage, everything else should fall in line. It skips to the Sympathy Booty giving some assistance to Rizzler Will because she can unlock things that he quite frankly just can't. Apparently, he's not allowed to carry a sword around, probably because it's just a bad look in many different respects. For some reason, his roommate won't let the Rizzler out of his grasp. When he's back at his dorm, Colette Loire isn't just there for sympathy, but for advancement for other character developing. She brings up that his roommate is roasty and that they seem like good friends. But the Rizzler isn't quite sure they're that close, or if he wants to be. This scene skips ahead and the Sympathy Booty is getting rizzed by Will's knowledge, but Colette isn't into that kind of riz. She tells Will to chill because he's already infinitely better than her in writing. But Rizzler Will keeps pounding it into our heads that it is the utmost importance that he metaphors his way to the top of the symbol, where the frosted haired waifu is waiting for him to complete the show's title. And then we get some dwarf lore. In the previous episode, Werkner Sensei mentioned how Will is very much strong and compact like a dwarf. And now Rizzler Will tells us how much he relates to these people. In the Battle of Garza Ranzo, it was these dwarves that had the capabilities to ward off strong magic with their physical prowess, concluding with their mantra, with the power of will, the risk cannot be stopped. And so Colette felt the characteristics that makes her admire our little MC Rizzler Will. Then she notices white hair. Oh no, what does that mean? It means that Colette is that one type of side sympathy that loves doing weird stuff to our little Rizzler.
Let me pull it out.
She's really trying to get our boy to whip it out. Edward Sensei came to CB this carrot-haired waifu, and Colette, sympathy booty, apologizes and tell Edward Sensei that they weren't about to do anything inappropriate. Oh, Edward Sensei wants something inappropriate to happen, alright. Young MC Rizzler will to the spell hall at once. Edward Sensei puts the meek back in our Rizzler will as he scolds him for continuing to fail the magic part of the Magic Academy. So like Werkner Sensei, get ready for some supplemental lessons. Wait a minute, you're giving a lesson just for me? That sounds pretty awesome, seeing that you purposely embarrass me in front of everyone all the time. Edward Sensei raises his hand and tells Will, what shall your nickname be? We're about to find out, Megane Will, what you're really made out of. Our boy Will is in major danger, but Edward Sensei gives our young Will a challenge that he cannot refuse. If Will can land a blow upon Edward Sensei, he will grant 5 spell work credits. However, if the meek in Will fails him, he will be expelled. Those that don't have Sino shall not even think about sullying the status of the symbol. And so the fight begins. Hajime! Our boy Will is in major danger, but where there's a will and a frosted waifu at stake, then you can bet your ass the show will make us wait for the payoff. Werkner Sensei is brought in by Kodoron Kocho. She whips out a Claire Molda to inform our special mentor about our special Rizzler's test. Werkner Sensei is forbidden to stop this exam that may send our meek will to magicless cast-offs where there's no symbol that matters. Kodoron Kocho makes a solid point that just as Werkner Sensei sees how Will can rizz the world in unexpected ways, Edward Sensei must witness the supposed brilliance of his different kind of rizz himself. As Kodoron Kocho is speaking to Werkner Sensei while watching them fight, 2 episodes in a row, we get this interesting character commentary that really informs us about a lot. In episode 1, we realize what Will is actually capable of. Now we might be getting that, but for Edward Sensei to find out what he's really all about. Cause it's clear, characters like Shion and Edward Sensei, they're not necessarily bad guys, but they are antagonists. But right here, in the beginning of the story, it's to challenge us with how different people see the world and what they value. And obviously, if you could shonen succeed, regardless of your inefficiencies and inabilities. Edward Sensei points his wand at Will and makes him run for cover. Werkner Sensei is the proud mentor of our future Magia vendor, MC Rizzler of the Lone Sword, who will meet back up with his frosted waifu. Why is this asshole, Edward Sensei, of all people, testing him? Why Kodoron Kocho? Because Edward Sensei is trying to be with the frosted waifu! Not like that, but as fellow Magia vendors. I hope. That would be a weird twist of fate that Edward Sensei would NTR our boy Meek Will, which would make him way more meek. Edward Sensei is on the cusp of becoming a Magia vendor himself. He may have been defeated while he was at the top of the tower, but he is an ascendant. Whatever the hell that means. I guess that means he's strong as hell, but not strong enough to be a Magia vendor. Bruh starts speaking in magic and says Dax Darpkins. Will gets pushed back by this low-level dark magical spell. Will is surprised by the level of power that came from a spell that should be weak. And then he dashes at Ed with some badass animation. Will breaks out the spinning back kick, but Ed says Darge. Edward Sensei talks down to our supposed Megane genius that he would try to kick down a magical shield. Will gets knocked down and Megane Will becomes Megane-less, and you know when the glasses come off, the shonen comes on. Will sees that Edward Sensei uses spells without casting incantations, which is such a magical trope that tells everyone that our mean-spirited Edward Sensei is more badass than any regular Will. But our Will is no regular Will. Will feels like he's pushed to the brink in a shonen corner. His adversary is almost a Magia vendor, Edward Sensei, that knocked the Megane out of the Megane Will. He has no weakness in offense or defense and recognizes how one fight is supposed to be Rizzler Will's specialty. But he struggles and coughs up blood and reaches for his broken Megane. His familiar, Kiki, runs away, even though it's supposed to have 9 lives. Then Edward Sensei tells the even meeker Will that he will only use black flames, like it's Amaterasu or something, to burn his willpower away. And he will use only a basic magic shield to repel his stupid ass kicks. Edward Sensei busts out magical doctrine number 27. He teaches our Will an important lesson that a person like Will, who can never be a jack of all trades, should just be a master of one. While busting out 1,000 arrows, Edward Sensei shows that he can use multiple magic spells at once with a barrage of Dax Darbykins like he's Gilgamesh from Fate. Meek Will runs for an escape like Kiki, and Edward Sensei talks his hubris. Once again, Megane Will becomes Megane-less as he gets blasted into the air. But cheeks up, it's getting near the point where it would make sense for our sympathy booty to appear to bring some sympathy for our boy, because it's looking real tough. And we're starting to feel kind of bad for our MC Rizzler. But being backed against the corner with seemingly no way out is the ultimate shonen challenge that we all must overcome, because he has too much on the line to just cradle into a meek Will. The symbol to the frosted waifu is being NTR'd by our Edward Sensei, who wants to be with her. Will is absolutely frustrated and pounding the floor, facing the reality of fighting a top tier mage like Edward Sensei, who's not even a Magia vendor. Meek Will is starting to become more and more realistic for our MC that's slowly losing his riz. If only, and only if he had his lone sword. And just like that, the sympathy booty appears to make true of our prediction of sympathy when our meek Will needs it, giving us a scene where she literally provides sympathy for our boy. The fizzling Rizzler, a solo supplemental lesson with Edward Sensei, she says? That almost sounds like someone should call the cops if it was a girl that he asked for a solo lesson. But it's Megane-less Will, the young man without his lone sword, being abused while authority watches on. Sympathy booty isn't far off from what Edward Sensei is doing to our boy, whipping him. Then Kiki's delivery service arrives to where sympathy booty is to get our boy an upside of sympathy. If Edward Sensei can have his wand, your boy can have his sympathy booty along with his lone sword. The bloody Kiki paws at the magical locker where Colette helps Will get his sword, and she's appalled at Kiki's HP. Where there's a Will, there's a sympathy booty and a cute cat to help save you from an abusive sensei who's working against your success, trying to NTR you with your frosted waifu. We can't let this teacher NTR and take his girl, so sympathy booty and Kiki's delivery service unite to save our young budding Rizzler of the world and future Magia vendor of the lone sword, and unlocks Will's willpower. Get this young Rizzler his sword. With our shonen MC laying flat on the ground with no other options, Ed informs meek Will about the importance of the status of a Magia vendor. It's not something that some magicless hopeless kid should strive for. If our MC Rizzler doesn't have enough dwarf riz, how can he expect to defeat someone that's already close to becoming a Magia vendor like Edward Sensei? It's a tough lesson for anyone that wants to become something so rare, so Edward Sensei is there to show our young shonen Megane-less MC Rizzler that sympathy just won't cut it. Coming full circle from the previous episode and earlier in this episode about the battle of Garzaranzo of the relation to the Dwarfs Rebellion, Edward Sensei gives our withering away meek Will one last question. The dumbass dwarves rebelled with 10,000 dwarves worth of willpower. How many mages did it take to stop these magicless bums? Right as Edward Sensei stops short of stomping on Will laying on the ground, Will digs deep into his MC Shonen Riz and slowly gets himself back off the ground, and before he answers, Hitori da! Edward Sensei is everything that the Soulless One hopes to be and stomps on our MC's head. One little boy magical wand sent a bunch of munchkins off into the distance. Are we sure the Magia vendors, minus the frosted hair waifu, isn't actually the bad guys? A sword will never be a wand. Give up the Magia vendor dreams and just play with your little sword. Never tell a shonen protagonist that they can't metaphor their way to the top of the symbol. Will tells Edward Sensei, where there's a will, there's a way, and busts a hole in the ground with his shonen anger and grabs the slender of Edward Sensei's ankles, but he just shrugs it off. From this measly, magicless, and rizless, soon to be expelled, will-less, frosted hair waifu-less, Edward Sensei questions why a person named Will has so much willpower. And the reason is as basic as it needs to be for our meek Will, as he digs deeper into his Riz and grabs one of the other important symbols in his life that the frosted hair waifu gave to him. When you got a frosted hair waifu like that is waiting years for you to Riz her, there ain't no way he's letting this Netoware douchebag Edward Sensei CB me. A will of a man belongs with the will of a strong waifu. I will metaphor my way to the top of the symbol because Elfie, Aishiteru! Edward Sensei is totally flabbergasted, as most of us normal dudes would have post. But our little MC Rizzler Will wants that top tier frosted waifu action. And so Will tells Edward Sensei, get your bitch ass out of my way. A promise is a promise. When you make a promise to someone that's a top tier waifu that makes you a manlier man that you can never imagine, you can bet my little rizzling ass I'm going straight to the top of the symbol to clap those cheeks. Edward Sensei has never gotten any ass to realize how much a strong waifu can make a man stronger. Edward Sensei is totally disgusted. He wants to whip this little whip boy even further, as he isn't feeling his Riz at all. Rizzler Will has his eyes set on the frosted hair waifu. We gonna see a real sun, a real moon in the real sky, and I'm gonna clap those cheeks under a real sunset. For the sympathy booty archetype, she's always there for the assist along with Kiki's delivery service. So she arrives and chucks the lone sword to the Rizzler Will, who's in his shonen climactic monologue. Yeet! And just like that, where there's a will, there's a carrot-colored haired side chick with tons of sympathy there to help you become the man you are destined to be. Because the more waifus, the better. With Will's sword in hand, the Rizzler is at his rizzling peak. The Rizzler puts on his frosted waifu empowered goggles and gets ready to beat this NTR shit-talking, not even a Magia vendor, Edward Sensei. Edward Sensei gets even angrier. This little wannabe Rizzler is a Rizzler of the sword and not of a wand. Edward Sensei tries to show his little wannabe Rizzler who's the real boss and shoots a whatchamacallit at our MC Rizzler, and he deflects it like a real Rizzler would. And then we get a hint at some swordplay lore. Is that a Moria blade? What the hell is that? Nevertheless, that's not gonna stop an almost Magia vendor from beating up his student. He shoots a barrage at our MC Rizzler Will, and his meek starts to speak to him. Eyes on the prize, bro. It's all for the frosted hair waifu. As all of us, as the audience, are cheering our shonen boy on to get to cut those cheeks, we are all digging within our hearts to cheer on our boy, MC Rizzler Will. Edward Sensei is getting ready to Amaterasu our young Rizzler, as the sympathy booty is slowly getting more and more Riz by this unexpected amount of Riz right from above. In the middle of something dark, hard, and hot, your boy MC Rizzler Will must defeat a literal barrier. Edward Sensei tries to pull the Owarida, but little does he know, where there's a frosted hair waifu on the line, the Riz is at his ultimate shonen peak. And so Rizzler Will attacks Edward Sensei head on. Carrot-haired color Colette screams out for Will. Will! The Riz is totally at his shonen peak when the side piece is on an emotional roller coaster ride. Bro is the Rizzler of the Lone Sword. Ain't no pew-pews gonna deny his rise to the metaphorical top where the symbol of his purpose lies. The Rizzler updates the audience about what Edward Sensei left out of the story of the Battle of Garzaranzo. A brave dwarfen munchkin general named Gareth fought until the bitter end, as all of his men fell one by one, but even if they lost, keshite kiramanai until the bitter end, as the dwarfen general still laid one dwarfen lick to this evil ass looking mage. In the dwarfen's valiant effort, his bravery was still recognized at the end. As peak MC Rizzler Will dodges all Ed's attacks, he starts hurling a bunch of big ass rocks at him where no one can see, which leads Edward Sensei to be more on guard than usual. Then, the Riz of the episode is at his climactic peak with the frosted hair waifu as the wand in mind. The man with the lone sword met its beloved wand. The sword saw wand and reached it. With Edward Sensei's magical shield up, MC Rizzler Will jumps from the ceiling to blast through his magical barrier, and within sword's reach, Rizzler Will is official. Get your NTR ass out of my MC's way. With a swing of the Rizzler Will's sword, Edward Sensei's wand pointed at him, a small cut leaks blood out Edward Sensei as he grunts in his own frustration, with Rizzler Will breathing really hard, and the sympathy booty is probably feeling the relief of a really big shonen Riz right now. Will! Edward Sensei walks away and tells our official nicknamer Rizzler Will that he has passed with his 5 spell work credits. It didn't take long for the sympathy booty archetype to be there by his side. Now, I'm starting to feel bad that the lady that's been by our boy's side this entire time is gonna miss out on the payout of this relationship. Imagine supporting your boy all this time just for the frosted hair waifu to take him away. Your boy gets to rest now, all jacked up on the lap of sympathy booty. Lucky him. Then Calderon Coltro and Werkner Sensei get to conclude their conversation from what they just witnessed. Amigoto. Werkner Sensei explained how Rizzler Will officially passed this lesson, just like it was hinted from the previous episode how he can deduce how to defeat anyone. This just becomes another example of that promising Senshi of the Lone Sword, MC Rizzler Will. The most important takeaway is that the Tsurugi can reach the wand and pound it for your boy. And that concludes Ukutsu no Gotoku. Then the end teases Will's roommate. He too wants that MC Shonen Riz. So what have we learned from today's episode? Shonen is gonna shonen, but it's a formula that will always work if it's executed right. 2 episodes in, you have your classic tropes and the lore in all the right places. For this anime to dive deeper, it's quite frankly probably going to take the entire season to get into the deeper elements of the lore. But first and foremost, you must build your MC, Rizzler, with all the motivations that we as an audience can get behind. There's nothing more simpler but accepted that our main protagonist is chasing a worthy lady that's literally there waiting for our boy. Let's be realistic here. There are some women that are worthy to be chased if they make you a better person. I know simping can be taken as a negative connotation kind of thing, but look at our Rizzler Will. What will he be without a symbol to actually chase? And that is one of the most important shonen elements, to have a purpose to chase something, and within that chase you are becoming a better human for it. The only way this formula doesn't work is as long as they don't guilty crown it. Please don't guilty crown it. Don't make the MC do annoying stuff, and don't make the waifu your sister. And also make sure all the NTRs, they get their ass beat. So yeah guys, after watching episode 2, I have this strong urge to start reading this manga. Right now, you guys know that I'm trying to catch up with One Piece, so I have my shonen fix in that way. But this anime is a more updated, modern day shonen. It has all the typical magical, fantastical things for a general audience will love. So this episode continued to build upon our MC, Rizzler Will. It brought forth the two things that are at odds of how the characters see the world. Magic is everything, but then again, for our MC, it isn't everything. So you have clashing ideologies, which is clearly in favor of our main protagonist, and you have other characters that see the greatness that can be in Meek Will, that's not so meek no more, that sees all the great qualities that are building within Rizzler Will. So we have the clashing of ideologies. We have Kodoro and Kocho teasing this big battle for the main plot. We have purpose for our MC to reach somewhere, to become better. We have good friends for our MC, like Sympathy Booty, that's always there by his side. Ain't that nice? And for this episode, the highlight really is Edward Sensei probably realizing now, along with Shion, that their way of thinking might be faulty. And maybe they need to chase a frosted hair waifu as well. Find their own frosted hair waifu, that is. So yeah guys, let me know what you guys thought about this episode and about this anime so far. If you guys been reading the manga, let me know how excited you guys are, or if there's things that we've been missing. But this is something that I'm getting more and more infatuated with, that I'm enjoy covering right now. So yeah, just let me know what you guys think. Just remember to respect the journey, because we all die anyways. Enjoy the ride of life. Go out there, find your frosted hair waifu, and go chase it to become a better human being. Do me a favor, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Check out my blog at otakusen.com. And I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.